Italian literature, a literary text entitled War by Luigi Pirandello. War by Luigi Pirandello is a short story about a couple whose son has been sent to war. They board a train to leave Rome, the departure spot for their sons and the young men going off to war. The wife felt she was the only mother who grieved about her son leaving. All the passengers on this train have one or more loved ones on the front in the war. This couple, who boards the train last, has their one and only son in war. The wife, especially, is grieving the most. The other passengers ask, "What is the problem?" only to be able to relate to her sadness. One woman speaks up and says that her son had left for the front the first day of the war, was sent back twice because of injuries, and was sent back yet again. Another woman stands up and adds in that she has 2 sons and 3 nephews at the front. The original husband relates back that it was their one and only son. This starts a conversation between passengers about the love for their sons and the suffering one may have to go through because she has 2 sons at the front. One woman adds that their sons do not belong to them, but to the country. A fat man stands up and makes the point that their sons, including his, will die happy because they were fighting for the love of their country and they died with dignity and in flame. He seemed so strong and proud of his son. Then the very first wife, all bundled up in the corner, rose from her seat and asked the fat man if his son was really dead. The fat man had no words, but tears began to roll down his face, and he soon found himself in sobs to the amazement of everyone on the train. War by Luigi Pirandello focuses on the real problems of ordinary people, which makes this story relatable to realism. So realism is present in the story because the people are truly grieving about their boys going off the front. That is a real problem, and many of them are depicted by themselves and wearing very heavy clothes as to suggest that conditions may not be fair and they have lost their spouse also. This story is like World War II because many people were mourning their loss of their sons or they're mourning their departure. They had real problems. Some lost their jobs, some lost their houses, and some lost their belongings, and the conditions were terrible.
Good morning, guys, and good morning to our instructor, Miss Manuel. And today, we are going to take a deep dive into one of the best poems of the European literature, the Divine Comedy. So, this is written in the early 1300s by the Italian Dante Alighieri, who is mostly referred to as just Dante. Poet, politician, and a theologian. So I'll do my best to cover all 3 structures of the Divine Comedy in a way that it is easy to understand to everybody. So this will include just the gist of each depth of hell, purgatory, and fear of heaven, or as they are called in the poem as Inferno, Purgatorio, and Paradise. So let's start with Dante being interested in religion and the consequences of our actions here on earth. So the Divine Comedy tells the tale of Dante trying to aspire to heaven, but he must travel through hell and purgatory to get there. So to begin with is his journey to Inferno. With the help of a guide named Virgil, Dante must navigate the depths of hell in order to make his way through the earth to the other side and climb a mountain in the story of Purgatorio, and then make it to heaven or Paradiso with his love Beatrice. So, they begin at the gates of hell inscribed with "Abandon all hope, you who enter here." So the next is the first circle of hell, which is called the limbo. The limbo is where the unbaptized, virtuous pagans, or the non-Christian exist. On the second circle of hell is the lust, who the people who are having strong feelings of sexual desire. This is where Minos judged the sinners and assigned them to their place in hell, where the souls are punished by having their spirits blown about an unceasing wind. On the third circle of hell is the gluttony, where people who are excessively greedy are guarded by Cerberus, and their gluttons spend eternity wallowing in mud and mire. On the fourth circle of hell is the greed, where the hoarders and the wasters are spending their eternity rolling in the giant boulders at one another. On the fifth circle of hell is the wrath, where wrathful fight each other on the surface, and the sullen or the slothful lie gurgling beneath the water. On the sixth circle of hell is the heresy. Heretics, which is a person holding an opinion at odds with what is generally accepted, are trapped in failing too. On the seventh circle of hell is the violent, where violent people who are against each other like tyrants and murderers are tormented and punished. On the eighth circle of hell, which is the fraud, this is divided into 10 ditches of stone. The plunderers, flatterers, bribers, sorcerers, hypocrites, thieves, sowers, and falsifiers are being whipped by demons and punished by being stuck upside down in rock with their feet on fire. On the ninth circle of hell is the betrayal, where Judas, Cassius, and Brutus are totally covered in ice. They are called the treachery against masters. So that basically ends Dante's Inferno, where Dante and Virgil climb down Satan's frozen body, and they now begin to ascend back to the surface, but on the other end of the planet. And this is where the Purgatorio begins. So there are 7 terraces of Purgatory, each one loosely tied to the 7 deadly sins. On the first terrace is the pride, where people are purged by carrying giant stones on their backs. On the second terrace is the envy. Envious are purged by having their eyes sewn shut. The third terrace is the wrath, where people are purged by walking around in acrid smoke. On the fourth terrace, which is the sloth, people are purged by continually running. On the fifth terrace, which is the greed, people are purged by lying with the face down on the ground, unable to move. And on the sixth terrace, which is the gluttony, people are purged by abstaining from any food or drink. And on the seventh terrace, which is the lust, people are purged by being burned in an immense wall of flame. And to leave these terraces, Dante must also walk through a wall of flame. And that basically ends Dante's Purgatorio. And now that Virgil and Dante reach the peak of Purgatorio, the story of Paradiso begins. Now, it is begin with the first sphere of heaven, which is the sphere of moon. This is where souls who abandon their vows exist. The second sphere is the sphere of Mercury, where souls who did good out of desire for fame exist. On the third sphere, which is the sphere of Venus, souls who did good out of love exist. Rahab, the brightest soul among those of the spheres, exists. And on the fourth sphere, which is the sphere of the sun, this is where the souls of the wise exist. On the fifth sphere is the sphere of Mars, where souls who fought for Christianity exist. On the seventh sphere, which is the sphere of Jupiter, souls who are personified, or souls who personify justice exist. On the next sphere, which is the sphere of Saturn, is also called the abode of the contemplative. And the next sphere is the fixed stars, faith, hope, and charity, also called the abode of the blessed, or also known as stellar heaven, the counterpart of Garden of Eden, man's redemption, and Christ's triumph. On the ninth sphere, which is the prima mobile, this is also called the abode of the angels. And on the 10th sphere, which is the Empyrean, is the abode of God, also known as intellectual paradise. So, that would be all for the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, and thank you all for listening.
Let's proceed to my literary text, which is a poem on Divine Revelation by Hugh Henry Breckenridge. So this is my own understanding or the summary of the poem. So the poem entitled Divine Revelation by Hugh Henry Breckenridge is religious. So the genre of this poem is dramatic. Then, this literary conveyed and adhered to the biblical narrative events of Abraham in Judah and Jesus in his reign. This art shows the great kingship of Jesus and great suffering of the Lord from the prophecy to the fulfillment, in which the tenor turns into the peace and love of the Lord. Moreover, it conveyed the war between the devil and the angel of good. It signified the fighting of the Holy Spirit against the devil. This poem understands the variety of religions and beliefs of every society. Therefore, from the descendants of Abraham unto Jesus the Emmanuel, which is the King of Judah, every Jew and Christian is seeking peace and the united religion through the forefathers. So this is my own understanding about the poem of Hugh Henry Breckenridge. So this will be the end of my report. Thank you everyone. God bless.
Good day everyone. I'll be reporting the literary text of the European literature, specifically the Italian sonnet. I am Rona Jane Rumarate and I will be your reporter. Let us first discuss what is a sonnet, an Italian sonnet. So what is a sonnet? A sonnet is a 14-line poem with a fixed rhyme scheme. The sonnet is derived from the Old Occitan praise sonnet, meaning little song. A sonnet is invented by Italian poet Giacomo da Lentini. On the other hand, Italian sonnet is only based on the original sonnet invented by Giacomo da Lentini. It is also known as Petrarchan sonnet. It is named after Francisco Petrarca or Petrarch, who popularized the form. The structure of the Petrarchan sonnet are: it contains 14 lines and each lines are divided into an 8-line subsection called an octave, followed by a 6-line subsection called a sistine. The octave always follows a rhyme scheme of A, B, B, A, B, B, A, while the sistine follows a one of two rhyme schemes. The more common is the CDE, CDE scheme, and the Petrarchan sonnet always makes use of iambic pentameter. Example of Petrarchan or Italian sonnet. So I'll be mentioning two examples. First is the Whoso Lists to Hunt by Sir Thomas Wyatt.
Whoso lists to hunt, I know where is an hind, but for me, alas, I may no more. The vain travail hath wearied me so sore, I am of them that farthest cometh behind. Yet may I by no means my wearied mind draw from the deer, but as she fleeth afore, fainting I follow. I leave off therefore. Sithens in a net I seek to hold the wind, who lists her hunt, I put him out of doubt, as well as I may spend time in vain. Engraven with diamonds in letters plain there is written, her fair neck round about, Nulli me tangere, for Caesar's I am, and wild for to hold, though I seem tame.
This is the most famous poem of Sir Thomas Wyatt. In the 4-line excerpt begins this Petrarchan sonnet and makes up the first half of the octave. In this section, the speaker is laying out the main issue at hand, a woman that he can't reach. She is depicted as a deer, a hind, one that is impossible to reach. The hunt is driving the speaker insane and he's just about to give up. He is telling the listener or someone he thinks might be interested in picking up where the heel left off to be careful. This woman is impossible to catch. The poem concludes with an interesting image that of a diamond praise around the deer's neck that reads, Noli me tangere. This phrase from the Bible translates as, do not touch me. And the second example of Petrarchan sonnet is the Sonnet 43 or How Do I Love Thee by Elizabeth Barrett Browning.
How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. I love thee to the depth and breadth and height my soul can reach when feeling out of sight for the ends of being and ideal grace. I love thee to the level of every day's most quiet need by sun and candlelight. I love thee freely as men strive for right. I love thee purely as they turn from praise. I love thee with a passion put to use in my old griefs and with my childhood's faith. I love thee with a love I seem to lose with my lost saints. I love thee with the breath, smiles, tears of all my life, and if God choose, I shall but love thee better after death.
It is also one of Browning's most famous poem, and it is an example of a Petrarchan sonnet. The poet introduced the poem and what she's going to be talking about in the first 4 lines of the poem, laying out her passion and dedication to this person. She goes on to the list out using techniques like anaphora and repetition how she loves him freely, purely, and with a passion. In the second half of the poem, she turns to address the fact of life and death and how she hopes that after that, God will allow her to continue loving him as she does now.
So for literary text, I have here Sonnet 18. So Sonnet 18 is one of the best known of the 154 sonnets written by the English writer William Shakespeare in 1609. So Sonnet 18 focuses on the loveliness of a friend or lover, with the speaker initially asking a rhetorical question about comparing their subject to a summer's day. He then goes on to introduce the pros and cons of the weather, mentioning both the idyllic English summer's day and the less welcoming sun and rough winds of autumn. In the end, it is insinuated this very piece of poetry will keep the lover, the poem subject, alive forever and allow them to defy even death. Structure of Sonnet 18. Form. The poem is written in the form of a sonnet. It has 14 lines which are divided into 3 quatrains and a couplet. Second, the rhyme scheme. It uses a rhyme scheme which is ABAB, CDCD, EFEF, GG. Then the diction, the words used in the sonnet are straightforward and ordinary. Then fourth, the tone. So the tone of the sonnet is romantic and full of flattery. Then the speaker speaks of his beloved beauty as there is no match for it. And lastly, the literary devices used are rhetorical questions, personification, and metaphor. That is all for my report. Thank you for listening and have a good day.